Now let us understand the different storage modes that are available as part of Power BI desktop, and also we will take a look at which storage mode we are supposed to use and when we are supposed to use, right? So that one we will discuss it now. The Power BI supports different methods for connecting data. Right, so there are four main types of connections that are available in Power BI. So one is import. We have seen when we try to connect to the Microsoft database, and when we try to import that, right, when we clicked on OK, it was asking import or direct query. So we are talking about that only, import, right? There are four main types of connection. One is import, and the next one is direct, and third one is composite, and fourth one is live connection. Remember that this import, this is the one most widely used, and it is the default one when connecting to majority of the data sources. So this import connection will ingest or pull the data from the data source and become part of the Power BI desktop file. Listen very carefully. Okay, since the Power BI pull the data from the data source, for example, we have seen Microsoft database. So that is the data source. So when I use the import mode, it simply downloaded, right, or loaded the data from the Microsoft database cloud into my Power BI desktop itself. Since the data sits inside of the Power BI desktop, it is super fast, right? Anything which is available locally, the data, and with that locally available data, if you do some kind of data transformation, or if you do some kind of cleaning, and if you create visual, it will be faster. The report performance will be faster, and it is not only the fact that when you import the file locally, the performance is faster, but also in Power BI, remember that it uses something called X velocity engine behind the scene. What is X velocity engine? I just write it here, X velocity engine. This is the driving force behind the Power BI, especially when it comes to import mode. So what happens is, let's say you are importing the data from SQL server or other source system. What happens is, the X velocity engine, what it does is, it convert your tabular data into columnar data, first step, and second step is it compresses the data, and then it loads this columnar data which got compressed into the in-memory. The X velocity engine, let's say you are connected to the SQL server to import the table. So, or if you use a database, right? So what will happen is, it will convert the data into columnar data, tabular data into columnar data, and then it compresses the data, and then it loads the data into memory. Since the data is available in memory, the performance is faster. Okay, and on top, it's not only it is available in memory, and also it got compressed. The compressed data is columnar data now. Now the question is, what is the difference between tabular data and columnar data? I'll just explain it in brief. So tabular data, let's say in your table you have 1000 columns. 1000 columns are there in your table. Okay, and let's say you have something like account table. In the account table you have 1000 columns are there. For, let's say your manager asked you to generate a report. All he needs is only 3 columns from this 1000 columns. So for example, instead of saying account, let's say sales table, so he wants to know a region wise, quarter wise sales. That's it. Out of the 1000 columns, you are interested in the region, quarter, and sales. That's all. But if you go by the typical tabular based data, what will happen is, so it will go and check for first whether first column is a region or not. No, it is not region, and it will skip. It will keep skip until it finds a region, until it finds quota and sales. It keeps skip. There is a search time, right? It has to go and search, and where it finds region, quota, sales, right? In your query, you are selecting only these three columns until it finds these three columns. Out of these 1,000 columns, it has to keep skip. It will take some time, right? In the case of tabular data. In the case of columnar data, each column is stored separately. So in that case, what will happen is, in your query, if you are using region, quota, cells, it will directly go and hit these columns upfront. Hence, there is no need of scanning each and every columns. That is what columnar data. You just, with this simple example, you understand the difference between tabular and columnar. And if you store each and every column separately, and then if you compress the data, and then if you load it in memory, the consumption of the memory consumption is very less. Hence, if you want to query the data, anything, right, the performance will be faster. It uses different compression technique, value encoding, dictionary encoding. That I will discuss it in detail as part of DAX, right? At the time of DAX introduction, we'll take a deep dive about this one. At this moment, you remember these three steps. In the case of import mode, the X velocity engine, which is the driving force behind Power BI desktop, right? So what it does is, it does these three steps. Since the data is available in memory, cached data. Import is also called cached data. The data is cached in memory. The simple analogy is, for example, if I ask you your spouse's contact number, if you are a guy, and if I ask your wife number, or if I ask you your husband number, you have it on top of your memory. Your husband number or spouse's number is cached in your memory, right? You will say tuck, right? In a matter of jiffy, you say, hey, this is what, the 98467, right? It is cached in memory. So similarly, the simple analogy, okay? So this is how, it makes sure that X velocity engine, by caching the data in memory, the performance is faster when it comes to import. And also, let's say your SQL server, let's say you are using SQL server, you have something called employee table. The employee table size is, let's say, 200. Instead of saying employee table, let's take sales table. The sales table, you have 200 GB size, right? So when you use the import mode to import the entire sales tables 200 GB data into my Power BI desktop locally, so what would be the size of file once I import the entire sales table into my local system? Is it 200 GB? No, it is not 200 GB. Since the X velocities engine, in the case of import mode, it converts this in a columnar data and compresses the data, and it loads the data in memory, and this one gets compressed to let's say 30 GB or something like that, or 20 GB or something. It will get, since it uses the compression technique, it reduces the file size drastically. Hence, the source system file size is not same as the imported file size. Okay. But in Power BI desktop, the non-premium version, right? So per file, it can store only 1 GB file. So there is a limitation with non-licensed Power BI software, right? So per file, you can have only 1 GB limitation. Let's say you are importing a file which is 10 GB in the source system. After it does the compression, everything, if it boils down to 1 GB, it is fine. If it boils down to more than 1 GB, 1.2 GB or 1.1 GB, then what will happen is, it will not work because of the limitation. Got it? Oh, recording is not going on. Oh, it is going on, Lavnish. It's going on. Okay. Anyway, it's good. You are reminding me. It's always good, right? So let us ensure that it's getting recorded or not. It's going on. Don't worry. Right. So the 10 if it so there is a limitation here per file. If you don't have the premium license, it'll if it exceeds more than 1 GB, right? So it will not work. There is a limitation with this import mode. That is the one thing you need to keep in mind when you suggest to or when you make any recommendation to your customers. You need to keep this in mind. Okay. And the other advantage with import mode is the performance will be faster because it is available in memory. And the next one is the other limitation is you can schedule up to 8 refreshes a day. Okay. So when it comes to import mode, when you use the import mode, you have to refresh your data in order to keep your data up to date in a report, right? You need to keep refresh it. For example, I just for example, today is yesterday, right? Yesterday, 27 April by 7 p.m. You have imported the data from your SQL server. From SQL server, you have imported the data yesterday evening by 7 p.m. But today evening 7 p.m. let's say your manager today by 7 p.m. he wants to see the today's data along with yesterday data. In that case, whatever the data which got inserted yesterday after 7 p.m. right till today 7 p.m. data, you need to refresh it. But per day you can refresh it 8 times only. You cannot. But in the case of non-licensed one, okay, non-premium, right? So if you go for in the case of enterprise, obviously they they use the premium licensed one. With the premium license, you can refresh more than 8 times. But I don't remember on top of my mind how many number of refreshes are possible. Probably you can check with the Microsoft manual. Okay, see the docs.microsoft.com, right? So you can see there and you can check it. Probably I can also check and let you know. And the other advantage of the import mode is the design. You have a lot of control over here. So you have the lot of design flexibility, especially for the data modelers, right? And also you have something called Q&A, the question and answering, and quick insights, and all the DAX functions can work with the import mode related data, right? If you import the data from any source, you can use all kind of DAX functions. Majority of the DAX function you can use it, and the data modeling you can do it, right? So you can create a relationship between the tables, everything you can do it. The other disadvantage is that when it comes to disadvantage, you have to keep your data up to date in your report. You need to refresh your data whenever you use import mode. Remember this, you need to, in order to keep your data up to date, you need to refresh the data. Okay, but you can schedule it. Okay, that and all I will show you later. But this is one disadvantage. Okay, and with Power BI model, as I told you, you cannot, it cannot have more than 1 GB per data set. This is one of the limitation with the non-premium licensed one, the free one. Okay, so in that case, right, if you go for premium license, you can store 10 GB or above. So, right, so there is no limitation there. Next one is, we'll take the direct mode. There are 4 types of mode. I was discussing it. One is import mode. So far we discussed about import mode. Now let us take a look at the direct mode. What exactly the direct mode? So in the case of direct mode, basically it is an alternative to your import mode, right? In this type, the data will not be stored in your local desktop or Power BI model, okay, since it is a direct connection to your data source. For example, this is my SQL server. This is my Power BI. When I use direct connection to connect to my SQL server, the query will be generated in Power BI desktop, and then the query will be sent to your SQL server, and then the query will get executed at the source SQL server itself, and then the output of the query will be sent back to your Power BI. So why to import the data, and then why to do data cleaning, all the things, isn't it? For example, if the data volume is 100 GB or 1 terabyte, right, what will happen? By the time you import, it takes lot of time. It might fail also. The import also sometimes fails. Let's say the 1 terabyte volume of data to import your local Power BI desktop, if it takes let's say 1 day or 2 days time, right, 2 day time or 1 day time, right? So there are a lot of issues you might come up. Your net connection may break, or sometimes timeout can happen. Instead, what you do is, if the volume of the data is very high, simply generate the query from the Power BI and then send it. What do you mean by generate the query? Based on your business logic. For example, I want to compute the total revenue, and then net margin. I want to compute. There is some formula for this. Your manager is given you, or the customer is given you. What you are doing is, in your select query, you are doing all the things, okay? And you are selecting the sales column, and then cost column from another table. Sales minus cost will give you the net revenue, and then probably your margin, right? Net margin. Sales minus cost. Sales price minus cost price is your profitability. After subtracting the discount, all the things, you will get this net margin. This is the formula. All these things you have written it in a SQL query. So what will happen is, in the Power BI, it generates this SQL query, and then so you do some kind of transformation, okay? Then it will generate the query on its own, and then it will send the query to the SQL server, and then it says something like, hey, it is your piece of job. You pick up this query and then execute it at your disposal, and then you send me the output back to me. All I need is a data back to my server. I will not do any execution here in my local system. I will not download it. Instead, I send the query, execute it at your site, and then send me the output back. That's it. In the case of huge volume of data, better you can go for direct query. Though the direct query option takes more time, because you have to send the query, and if the source system SQL server is already grappled with the resource issues, let's say multiple queries are running already on top, to run your query, it takes some time. It depends on the availability of your SQL server, in the sense, the resource availability. What do you mean by resource? Memory, CPU, these are called resources. Please remember this. In the interview, they will ask you this one also sometime. Indirectly, they might ask you, should be able to understand. Right? So it depends, right? So again, it has to pull the data from. So let's say you have used the bar chart here. The bar chart, in the x-axis, you plotted something like sales, and then, or region, right? Your region and sales in the y-axis. This data, based on some condition, right? Based on the formulas that you have written it in your SQL query, something like this, right? It has to, for this to plot, to display the visual, it has to send the query to your SQL server, and then get the output of the data, and then it will display the visual here. It directly connects to the source system. So the advantage of this one is, it requires less storage, because we are not downloading or importing the data, the entire data. Let's say you have 100 GB or 1 terabyte volume data, you are not importing it. Hence, it doesn't require storage space in your local Power BI desktop, and also it doesn't require data refresh. Whenever you connect it, or whenever you refresh your chart, right, it automatically queries your source system, and then it get the data. So you don't have to schedule the data refresh. Unlike import, you don't have to do the data refresh. And the limitation when it comes to this one, right, the direct query, is you cannot use all the DAX functions. What is DAX? DAX stands for Data Analytics Expression. There are built-in functions are available as part of your DAX. So with that built-in functions, you can do advanced analytics. So all the DAX functions that are available as part of Power BI Desktop is not available with direct query mode. Only few of them are available. And next one is limited Power Query operations. Power Query Editor. I'm talking about the Power Query Editor. Even in the case of Power Query Editor, you cannot split the column. You cannot merge the column. If you try to merge the column, the Power BI will not generate the SQL query. Okay, that is one pain is there. Okay, and other disadvantages. The direct query is possible for only few data sources. You cannot use this direct query connectivity mode for MySQL and some other source systems. You cannot use direct query mode. If you are very particular about knowing the list of data sources that are supported by direct query, right? So these are the thing. The list is not the exhaustive one. You can go to this URL and then you can find which all source system databases it supports direct query. So what did you understand? What is the takeaway? So in the case of import, if the volume of the data is not high, so this high is depends on the size of your file and depends on the resource that you are using it, right? So if this is a simple rule of thumb. If the volume of the data is not too high, then you can import it locally. The volume of the data is very high, then you can use direct query connection mode. Volume of data is very high, you can go for direct query mode. I just show you one more time for you to remember. For example, I just connect to I already we have shown you here, and again I will just connect to SQL Server. So here I just specify, okay, I don't remember the server name, that's the problem. SSMS. All I remember is this. Or the simple thing is, right, the database, when I connected and then when I clicked on OK, so look here, this is what I'm talking about, import direct query. By default, the import is the default one, and you can, if the table size is very huge, then you can use direct query option. If the table size is small, then you can go for import. I will explain you what kind of tables you can go for import and what kind of table you can go for direct query as we move further. At this moment, don't worry. Okay. Next, we have another type of storage mode. It is called live mode. It is a direct connection to the source, like direct connection mode. Even in the case of live mode, the data will not be downloaded or it will not be stored in your Power BI model itself. Okay, but the live connection is supported only for the 3 data sources, like SQL Server Analysis Services tabular, SQL Server Analysis Services multidimensional, and then we have something else called Power BI Service. So these two, let us not worry about this at this moment, right? So we have Power BI Service. I will give you a demo with Power BI Service how we can establish live mode connection. Before that, let us take a look at the advantages and disadvantages of using live mode. So like direct query mode, you are not going to import any data into your Power BI desktop itself, hence it doesn't have any size limitation, and it you can perform all kind of DAX transaction. Majority of the DAX functions you can perform on top of the live mode, unlike the direct mode. Hence live mode is better than your direct mode, but live mode supports only these 3 sources. Okay. The disadvantage is you cannot use your Power Query Editor. Okay, you cannot use your Power Query. You cannot combine data from multiple sources. Once you connect your Power BI service, you can use only that file related data only. And if you try to import JSON and some other file along with the live connection, it is not possible. Okay, now the question is, what is the difference between live mode and direct connectivity mode? In most of the interview they ask this question. The direct query is a direct connection to the data source. For example, you can connect to Power BI desktop can connect directly to the SQL server. The query will get executed to the SQL server itself. Oracle, IBM, these are the databases. You can use direct query to connect directly to those data sources. Live query is also direct connection, but using direct connection, you can connect to only SSAS, tabular, multidimensional, and Power BI arrays. But with the direct query, you can still configure relationship in some cases, the table relationship. But with a live connection, you have no relationship tab available. Even if the tab is available, you cannot create any relationship between the tables. Okay, there is no option to create any form of relationship in the case of live connection. Enough theory. I'll just get into the Power BI desktop and then I'll show you here. Look here, import and direct query. You can select direct query so that the table will not get imported into your Power BI desktop locally. In the case of SQL Server database, if you use this option, the table will not get imported locally. Okay, instead the query will be generated in your Power BI desktop and then the query will be sent to your SQL Server, and the query will get executed at your SQL Server database itself, and the output only will be sent back to your Power BI desktop. But live connection, I will show you live connection. What happens is, we will use Power BI desktop service. With that, I will show you what is live connection is all about. I'm going to click on the new one, file, so this is your welcome screen. Just click on the cross. It is not required, the welcome screen and all, and wait for some time. It is a bit slow. You have to have a lot of patience. Don't click multiple time. It will literally slow down your system. Look here, I opened a new Power BI desktop, and here I have Power BI data sets. Okay, and here also available, and if I go to get data, I can find here also the Power BI data sets. Okay, this is what we are using it to connect to our Power BI service, cloud service. Look here, when I clicked on Power BI data sets, I'll just close it here. For example, when I click on this, we are seeing Power BI data sets. When I click on this, it will connect to my cloud service. What do you mean by cloud service? One second, I'll just show you here. Since already I signed up with that client thing, it is directly taking me there. One second, I'll just app.powerbi.com, app.powerbi.com. Here you have to go and sign up. Once you sign up, you will get your credentials. Once you get your credentials, you can connect to your Power BI cloud service, but it requires your official email ID. You can use your workplace email ID to create or sign up with the cloud service. Look here, this is the Power BI cloud service. Here already you will find something called workspaces. This kind of your folder, Windows folder. So here I created other subfolders. In these subfolders, if I click on, so already I published some reports here. Okay, these are the reports already I published on cloud. Since I publish these reports on cloud, people across the globe, they can access my report and then they can view it. But for them, I need to give some access everything. Okay, only then they should be able to see it. So the file which I published on cloud, I can see it here. For example, I am going to just click on this file. This is the file I published on cloud. From my local Power BI desktop, I connect it to the cloud, and then I am going to import the file which I published in the past. Now the question is, how do I publish the report on cloud? That and all we will take a deep dive later point in. At this moment, you just take a look at this one, publish. In your Power BI desktop, you will find an icon called publish. And once you develop your report, like these kind of visuals, pie chart, other things, right? You can click on publish. It will ask you the username and password to connect to your Power BI cloud service. Once you connected there, you can click on the publish. This report will get published there. This report will get uploaded there. You just think that way. Okay, since I already published or uploaded the Power BI report which I generated or created in my local desktop to Power BI cloud, so I'm going to reuse that file by importing it now. That is what I'm doing it. Look here, it got imported automatically the moment when I selected the file using the Power BI data sets. I'll just show you one more time. You need to go to get data, click on Power BI datasets. It will ask you the username and password to connect to your Power BI cloud service. And there, multiple folders. I have published reports in different folders. I selected one specific folder, and then when I selected one file, all the data that are related to that file got imported here on the right side. Look here. This is live connection. For example, if I try to import some other file, Excel or anything along with live connection, it is not possible. This is what I was talking about, the limitation with live connection. But the beauty of this one is, look here, when you click on the model view, these are the data model design, already we have done it. So you can see the line here, these are called your relationship lines. Link, already I have created the model, everything here. But if I try to remove this model, right clicking on it, it is not working. When you see the mayonnaise relationship, it got disabled. See, when I hover the cursor on top of this one, you can see the date column got selected in your calendar table, and the sales W04 table on the bottom one, right? So order date got selected, highlighted. Date and order date, these two columns got selected, which means the calendar table, I have used the date column to create a relationship with sales W04 table with order date. The date and order date, these two are common columns between these two tables. I just dragged and dropped this, the relationship got created. So if I wanted to see which columns between these two tables, I used it to link. If you hover the cursor on top of this link, the columns will get highlighted in both the tables, date and order date. We can see it here, isn't it? So this relationship, for example, no, I don't want the relation to be to be created between date and order date. Instead, the day and order date, if I want to create it, I cannot modify it. Look here, I cannot delete the relationship, I cannot drag and drop it, it will not work. The reason why this option is available is, for example, I am the data architect or the data modeler. There is a separate designation for data architect, data modeler, like this, right? You need to create data model, and right, so there is a single point of control. If I am the data modeler, I created the relationship, everything, after talking to the customer with many rounds of discussions, after spending months and months of time, days and night, and I understood all the relationship between the tables, and then I created everything. I published on cloud. Later on, what I do in my project, 6 Power BI developers are supposed to use these data files. See, in this case, only 2 tables. In real time scenario, you will have 15, minimum 10 to 16 tables will be there. Okay. So in that case, if I allow them to make a changes, right, they can do any changes, because of which it can mess up my report. Hence, I don't want anyone to make changes to the data model. Simply, I created the data model, published on cloud, and I told my developers, hey guys, we need to use the Power BI datasets to import the file locally here. So this is called your live connection. Hence, they will not be able to make any changes to your model. Your model is safe. You will have a single point of control. And also, look here, you don't have the data view icon. That icon got disappeared, isn't it? Look here you can see 3 icons. Right, this icon is not visible in the live connection. See, look here the data view is not available. You are not supposed to view the security, right? Security reasons, the bank data and all highly secured, and they are not supposed to view. For example, credit card expiry date, credit card number, all the details. If I expose it to everyone, there could be chance of threat. So what I do is, what they wanted, okay, so now they can create all kind of visuals, but when they create the table or anything, right, they can see the data, but we have some row level security, column level security. With that we can hide some information. So here now what I can do is, I just simply drag and drop. Let's say I'm a developer, you have created this model and published on cloud, you intimated me, hey, you need to use this file for the data. So the other advantage is, as a developer, I need not to know in which source system, I know what is the SQL server name, what is the database name, what is the username, password. I don't have to be aware of all these things, right? Simply I have to go to my report canvas, and whenever I need a reference, I just go and see it. That's all, the relationship details. And next one is, you see all the columns, whatever that thing you needed, you simply drag and drop it, you create the report. And if you think, right, you don't need the table visual, click on this one. So you need to select this visual and then click on any type of visual, it will get converted automatically. So now I just selected clustered column chart. Now the table visual got converted to clustered column chart visual. Technology, we have more sales, it ranks number 1. Then the second top category is furniture. This is where we made this much of sales. You can get a quick glance about your sales performance across these categories. So as a report developer, simply drag and drop, that's all. You don't have to worry about the server name, the cloud URL name. You don't have to know anything. And also you have a centralized control, security, right? So you are not going to allow them to change this relationship. See, now the question is, remember this, if I delete this relationship, what will happen is, it will not show the correct data here. It will not do the filtering correctly. Okay, to summarize, import mode, what Microsoft suggests is, you can use import mode wherever it is required, but make sure that if the volume of the data is not so high, you can go for import. The advantage of import is, it converts your tabular data into columnar data, it compresses the data, and then it loads the data in memory. Since the data is available in memory, the performance is super fast. But if you are using, if your source system file is too big, right, so even after compression, definitely, let's say if the data size is 1 terabyte, if you try to import it, okay, when you try to import it, it will take longer time. On top, it has to apply the compression algorithms, compression techniques, right? And then it has to compress it, and then it has to load it. It takes a lot of time. So if the volume of the data is very high, then you can go for direct query. And if you are using SSAS, or let's say you are project leader, if they have already created the data model from various source system, and if they have published the report on cloud, use Power BI datasets and you do it. It is the best way of doing it. Live connection is much faster. You can use majority of the DAX functions, but thing is, you cannot do data transformation. Look here, the transform data got disabled. You cannot go to Power Query data. You cannot modify the data. That is one drawback. So not only the data modeler or data architect should do the data model design, but also they are supposed to clean the data. Everything they are supposed to do it there. The clean data and model the data, you are giving it to them. It's a plain vanilla, you are giving it to them. Simply they need to add toppings by just dragging and dropping the visuals and putting area, but still they are supposed to use some DAX functions and to do the advanced analytics, all the things they can do it. But with direct query you cannot use all DAX function, hence you cannot perform advanced analytics with direct query. But with direct query you have the flexibility to make changes to the data model, and also you will have access, limited access to the Power Query editor, in the sense you can go to the Power Query editor but you cannot perform all kind of transformation in Power Query editor. Okay, so these are the difference between the live connection and direct query and import. Direct query is a direction to data sources, live connection is a direct, one second, let me just, live connection direct into analytical services and Power BI service, and direct query you can still configure the relationship, whereas in live connection you have relationship tab, but in the past there is no relationship tab itself was available. Now at least the icon we can see the model view. When you click on the model you go and see the model, but you cannot modify the relationship or you cannot do any data transformation with live connection. So with this you are able to understand the difference between direct query and live mode, and also we discussed about import mode also. Next we have something else called composite mode. In the case of composite models, you can bring in data in both via direct query and import. Okay, with the live connection we cannot combine the different source system files, right? Once you establish a live connection, you cannot import any other file. That is another limitation. But when it comes to composite models, you can combine both import and direct query, but you cannot combine import along with direct query and live. You cannot do that. Live is kind of a standalone. If you use live connection, make sure that you imported all the table, everything in your report, and then you publish it, so that it should be simply reused. Okay, but if you are not using Power BI data sets, either you can use import or direct query. But for smaller tables you can import the data locally, and bigger tables you don't have to import locally. So this is called composite. It is a hybrid of both import as well as direct query. Okay, that is what you need to remember it. Look here, with composite you can bring in data via direct query and import. So look here I have SQL server I can import the data, and also I can import the data from my Excel sheet, and also some tables if you want to create a direct connection to my SQL server, that is also possible. You can have the combination of direct import as part of your data model, but you cannot combine all the three. Live is separate, you cannot mix live with this. Composite mode is an hybrid of import and direct query. Remember this. So any confusion so far, any doubts before I proceed further? Because if I keep on talk, you should be able to grasp it. Let me just show you that SSMS. I think I opened it. Yes, it opened it. Good. I'll show you the composite mode now. I just took the connection mode. I just go here, get data, and what I do is, this is a live mode and other one, so here I can do it here. I just click on SQL server. In general, you remember dimension tables are small compared to the fact table. There are two types of table. One is dimension, other one is fact table when it comes to data warehouse. You need to remember this. Look here, by default it is import connection. What I do is, intentionally I will select direct query. I click on OK. It connects to my SQL server directly. It will not import the data from my SQL server, the table data. So this is my sales database. In the sales database, these are the tables are available. The fact table is very huge one, hence I don't want to import it, but still it will show the data in the preview window. And if I click on load, it will load only the tables column detail here, table name and table column names. It will not import the data. Simply it import the table name and the columns that belongs to that table will get imported. That is called metadata. You just click on OK, potential security risk control, you click on OK. It is just giving us warning. Okay. Now I create a direct connection with my SQL Server sales fact table. Okay, it takes some time to import it. So we could see this one, right? It is rotating it. We have to wait for some time. And look here, the sales fact got got connected using the direct connection mode. You can see all the columns and the table name. But if you want to see the data, you can go here, but you cannot see the data here. This table uses direct query and cannot be shown. But if you want to see the data, you can create some visual, for example, table, and then drag and drop all these columns into your table. That way you can see the data. Okay. But when you drag and drop the columns behind the scene, it will generate the SQL query. That query will be sent to your SQL server. The output will be pushed to your visual. Understood? So, okay, now I have connected to the SQL server. Okay, I have opened 3 files. Huh? My God. Okay. So sales fact, right? This is, if I go to the model view, this is called your model view. If I go here, which one I imported? Sales fact. Look here. Other tables, monthly sales account table and all, right? We don't see any blue colored line displayed on top of this one. So look here. With this, we can understand, hey, this table we connected via direct query. Look here on the right side, the tool tip, it is displaying it, right? I see, if I keep the cursor here, if I keep the cursor here, see the something like name on the right side, sales fact, storage mode, direct query, data source type, SQL Server database. Fine. So once again, I'm going to connect to my SQL Server. This time what I do is, I will import one file in the sales database. I'm going to use the import connectivity mode. Click on OK. This is what I was talking about, composite mode. You can have both direct query mode and you can use import mode also. Look here for the dimension table. I know very well this dimension table, for example, location and product tables, right? These two tables are not so, it's not having huge volume of the data, but when it comes to Walmart and Target, right, close to 1 billion products we have listed on their website. But let's assume that product and location tables are smaller tables compared to sales fact table. Hence, I have used the import mode. So it will import the data locally into my Power BI desktop. Whereas sales fact, look here, see again, once again, sales fact also importing it with the direct connection mode. And this one, these two are import mode. Let's wait for some time. And if you scroll on the right, look here, the dim location, dim product, these two tables also, all these 3 tables we have connected to the SQL server, but these 2 tables we have used the direct mode. And for this table I have used, these 2 table import mode, and this one I have used direct query mode. So hence this table got highlighted with, this table got highlighted with the blue color. With this we can easily understand, though these 3 tables are from SQL server, for this we have used direct connectivity mode, and for these 2 we have used import mode. For these 2 we have used import mode. This is called, the combination of import and direct query is called your, this is my direct connectivity mode. So direct connectivity, since we have the combination of import as well as the direct connectivity mode, we call this as composite mode. Got it? That's it. Anyhow, this PBIDS will talk later, because too many source system, if we talk, right, it will not be rememberable. So next what we will do is we will take a look at the Power Query editor. You guys are okay